Marcus Aurelius gave commands to the Roman Empire without ever raising his voice. Though a former slave, Epictetus earned respect from the era's most powerful men using only his words. Seneca's influence on emperors stemmed not from aggression, but from the silent force of Stoic wisdom. What if I revealed that history's most respected individuals grasped a truth most people never discover? Genuine power originates not in the loudness of your voice, but in the gravity of your words. Today, I'm sharing 5 Stoic phrases that generate instant respect without requiring you to ever speak loudly. These are more than mere words, they are expressions of an inner strength that naturally leads others to yield to your wisdom and authority. I had to learn these lessons the difficult way. Years ago, I mistakenly believed respect came from being the loudest person present, from dominating every exchange, and from never yielding an inch. All that achieved was making me appear desperate for approval and insecure. Everything shifted when I encountered these 5 phrases, each deeply rooted in ancient Stoic philosophy. They revolutionized how people reacted to me, in my business dealings, in my relationships, and in all parts of my life. These phrases succeed because they showcase the qualities the Stoics have cultivated for more than 2 millennia: self-mastery, wisdom, emotional regulation, and unshakable inner strength. Let's delve into the quiet power of Stoic communication. 1. I understand your perspective, but I see it differently. The first phrase that commands respect is, I understand your perspective, but I see it differently. This single statement immediately demonstrates several Stoic virtues that naturally demand deference: humility, conviction, and wisdom. Most people react to a difference of opinion with either a passive acceptance or aggressive pushback. The Stoic method is to acknowledge the other person's view, while holding your own ground with quiet self-assurance. I learned the potency of this phrase during an intense business meeting where everyone was shouting about the strategy. Instead of jumping into the argument, I waited for a break and said, I understand the rationale behind both of these approaches, but I see this situation differently. The room immediately quieted. Suddenly, everyone became eager to hear what I had to say. This phrase commands respect because it displays several key attributes: emotional regulation. You are not defensive or reactive. You stay thoughtful and calm, even when facing opposition. Intellectual humility. You accept that other people hold valid viewpoints, proving you are secure enough to consider varied opinions. Quiet confidence. You aren't backing down from your position, nor are you aggressively defending it. Your conviction speaks for itself. Wisdom. You understand that disagreement doesn't necessitate being combative or taking things personally. You can respectfully maintain different beliefs. The Stoic principle underlying this phrase is the realization that you can only manage your own reactions and thoughts, not the opinions of others. By recognizing their perspective without adopting it, you show inner strength and self-mastery. When you use this phrase, your tone should be measured and calm. Maintain eye contact to project confidence. Follow up by clearly stating your position. Don't over-explain or justify. Let your perspective stand on its own merits. This phrase is effective in any situation: political debates, business disagreements, family conflicts, or relationship issues. It shows you are someone who respects others while thinking independently, a combination that naturally commands respect. 2. That's not going to work for me. The second Stoic phrase that commands respect is, that's not going to work for me. This uncomplicated statement demonstrates one of the most effective Stoic principles: the ability to establish clear boundaries without the need for justification, apology, or explanation. Most people either say yes to everything's people-pleasing or say no aggressively, creating conflict. The Stoic approach is emotionally neutral, honest, and direct. You are simply declaring a fact about your boundaries. You are neither apologetic nor angry. I discovered the power of this phrase when I was constantly being asked to undertake extra work projects that didn't align with my core objectives. Rather than becoming frustrated or creating excuses, I began responding with, that's not going to work for me. The immediate response was respect for my clear boundaries and clarity. This phrase commands respect because it demonstrates self-knowledge. You are aware of what doesn't work for you and what does. This signals personal standards and deep self-awareness. Emotional detachment. You are not emotionally invested in whether others approve of your boundaries. You state them as facts, not as requests for permission. Personal authority. You are the final authority on your own energy, time, and life. You do not require external validation to make choices about your boundaries. Respect for others. By being honest and direct, you show others respect by giving them clear information instead of being passive-aggressive or making excuses. The Stoic wisdom here stems from understanding that trying to please everyone actually diminishes respect instead of fostering it. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the necessity of living according to your own principles, rather than the expectations of others. How to use this phrase effectively: keep your tone factual and neutral. Do not apologize for having boundaries. Do not elaborate unless directly asked. When the boundary is firm, do not leave space for negotiation. Follow through consistently. Your boundaries are meaningless if you don't enforce them. This phrase is effective in personal relationships. That kind of communication doesn't work for me. Social situations, that plan doesn't work for me. And professional settings, that timeline isn't going to work for me. It is firm without being aggressive and direct without being rude. 3. I'll need to think about that. The third phrase that commands respect is, I'll need to think about that. In a world that prizes reactive decisions and instant responses, taking time to weigh your response demonstrates self-control, wisdom, and respect for significant decisions. This phrase exemplifies the Stoic principle of deliberate action over impulsive reaction. It shows you value thoughtful decision, making above quick responses that may not serve your best interests. I learned this during salary negotiations when I felt pressured to accept an offer right away. Instead of accepting out of anxiety or rejecting out of pride, I said, "This is a significant decision. I'll need to think about it, and we'll get back to you tomorrow." That moment of pause allowed me to evaluate properly and negotiate from a position of strength. This phrase commands respect because it shows wisdom. You recognize that crucial decisions require careful consideration, not hasty responses. Self-discipline. You can withstand pressure to respond instantly, demonstrating self-control and emotional regulation. Respect for the decision. By taking time to reflect, you demonstrate that the matter is important enough to consider meticulously. Inner strength. You operate on your own timeline, unswayed by others' expectations, urgency, or pressure. Strategic thinking. You understand that a considered response is typically superior to a rapid one. The Stoic foundation of this phrase is the understanding that thoughtful decisions are more likely to align with your long-term interests and values, whereas hasty decisions often result in regret. Epictetus taught the necessity of carefully examining our judgments before acting on them. When to use, I'll need to think about that. When you are facing significant professional or personal decisions. When you are feeling emotional and require time to regulate. When you are being pressured to respond immediately. When the decision affects your long-term values or goals. When you need to gather additional information before making a choice. Follow-up guidelines. Give a specific time frame for your response. Don't just delay. Actually use the time to think. Return with a clear, reasoned decision. If appropriate, thank them for their patience. This phrase works because it shows that you take yourself and important decisions seriously. People respect those who reflect before acting. 4. I take full responsibility for that. The fourth phrase that commands massive respect is, I take full responsibility for that. In a culture where people consistently shift blame and create excuses, owning your choices and mistakes demonstrates a character strength that naturally demands respect. This phrase embodies the core Stoic principle of accepting responsibility for the results of your choices while concentrating on what you can manage, your decisions, actions, and responses. I learned the power of this phrase when I made a considerable mistake on a business project. Rather than blaming circumstances or making excuses, I told my team, I take full responsibility for this mistake. Here is how we will resolve it. The respect I gained from that moment of accountability significantly outweighed any temporary embarrassment. This phrase commands respect because it demonstrates integrity. You are honest about your role and outcomes, both negative and positive. This builds credibility and trust. Courage. Accepting responsibility requires real courage, especially when circumstances were tough or when others might share the blame. Leadership leaders accept responsibility. By owning outcomes, you establish yourself as someone trustworthy for crucial responsibilities. Emotional maturity. You are not defensive or ego-driven. You can handle being wrong without it threatening your sense of self. Growth mindset. By owning mistakes, you show that you are someone who learns and improves instead of making excuses. The Stoic wisdom behind this phrase is the understanding that your character is forged by how you manage mistakes and difficulties, not by avoiding them. Marcus Aurelius frequently reflected on his shortcomings and errors as part of his personal growth. How to use this phrase effectively. State it clearly without excuse or qualification. Immediately follow with a plan for fixing the situation. Move forward without dwelling on the mistake. Do not become self-deprecating or over-apologize. Learn from the situation to prevent similar problems. Effective variations include, that was my decision, and I own the outcome. Or, that's on me. Here is how I'm going to handle it. This phrase transforms how people perceive you because it shows you are someone who can be trusted with responsibility and who possesses the character to own your choices. 5. I have confidence in my decision. The fifth and most powerful phrase that commands respect is, I have confidence in my decision. This statement demonstrates the ultimate Stoic quality, unshakable inner conviction based on alignment with your values and careful thought. This phrase doesn't imply you never change your mind or think you're always correct. It signifies that once you've made a principled, thoughtful decision, you stand behind it without requiring external validation. I discovered the power of this phrase when I was facing criticism for a career choice that others thought was too risky. Rather than seeking approval or defending myself at length, I simply said, I understand your concerns, but I have confidence in my decision. The criticism faded, and people began treating my choice with greater respect. This phrase commands respect because it shows self-trust. You trust your own judgment and decision-making process, which demonstrates self-knowledge and inner strength. Conviction. Once you've made a principled decision, you are not easily swayed by social pressure or the opinions of others. Emotional independence. Your confidence is not reliant on others' agreement or approval. You validate yourself based on your own standards. Leadership. People naturally follow those who exhibit confidence in their choices. Conviction is contagious, and so is uncertainty. Stoic wisdom. You understand that you can only control your responses and choices, not others' reactions or outcomes. The Stoic principle here is the realization that second-guessing a decision, made through careful reasoning and alignment with your values, based on others' reactions, weakens your effectiveness and character. Seneca wrote about the importance of making decisions based on virtue and wisdom, and then standing by them despite temporary setbacks or popular opinion. When to use this phrase: when facing criticism for choices aligned with your values. When others question decisions you have made thoughtfully. When you need to demonstrate conviction and leadership. When you are being pressured to change course due to others' doubts or fears. When your decision serves your long-term principles over short-term popularity. Key guidelines. Only use this phrase for decisions you have genuinely thought through carefully. Be open to new information, but do not change direction solely based on social pressure. Your tone should be matter of fact and calm, not defensive. Follow through on your decision to maintain credibility. This phrase works because it shows you are someone who thinks independently, makes principled decisions, and possesses the inner strength to stand by them. These are the qualities of respected individuals and natural leaders. The Stoic foundation of respectful communication. All 5 phrases succeed because they demonstrate core Stoic virtues that inherently command respect: wisdom, making thoughtful decisions, considering multiple perspectives, thinking before speaking, justice, respecting others while holding your own standards, being honest, taking responsibility, courage, standing by principled decisions despite pressure, owning mistakes, setting boundaries, temperance, self-discipline in communication, measured responses, emotional regulation. These phrases work because they spring from genuine inner strength, not external posturing. They prove you have done the internal work of cultivating character, self-mastery, and wisdom. The respect they generate is not based on dominance or fear, but on the recognition of authentic integrity and strength. People naturally yield to those who demonstrate these qualities because they sense genuine authority. So, there you have it. 5 phrases derived from ancient Stoic wisdom that command respect without you ever needing to raise your voice. I understand your perspective, but I see it differently. That's not going to work for me. I'll need to think about that. I take full responsibility for that. And I have confidence in my decision. These phrases work because they showcase the inner qualities that have commanded respect for over 2 millennia. Self-mastery, integrity, wisdom, and courage. They signal that you are someone who acts with principle, thinks independently, and takes responsibility for your choices. However, remember, these are not merely techniques to be memorized. They are expressions of character that must be developed through the consistent application of Stoic principles. The phrases are effective only when they originate from genuine inner strength, not as manipulation tactics. Begin incorporating these phrases into your everyday communication. Pay attention to how people respond differently when you speak from a place of calm authority, rather than reactive emotion. Observe how respect naturally flows toward those who demonstrate integrity and wisdom in their words. The objective is not to prove your superiority or dominate others. The goal is to communicate in a way that reflects your highest character and values. When you do that consistently, respect is the natural outcome of who you are. It's not something you have to demand or fight for. If this video helped you grasp the power of Stoic communication, please hit that subscribe button and share your experiences in the comments. Have you used any of these phrases? How did people respond? Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius: the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In a world filled with aggression and noise, the quiet strength of Stoic communication shines like a beacon. Act with integrity, speak with wisdom, command respect through character,